Alright, we're going to talk about a one-point perspective drawing, and we're going to use this example over here of a brick in order to draw that one-point perspective. What we're going to look at is what it would look like from the right side view. In this example, it's going to be pretty darn simple because it's going to be just a regular up square. So I am going to draw a line 2.5 to the right. I'm going to go straight up in the air at 1 1/4. 2.5 and then down. Now, in order to draw a one-point perspective, it's kind of like the railroad tracks that you drew when you were back in kindergarten. We're going to create what's called a vanishing point from the bottom center. So I'm going to go from the bottom center of this part, which is obviously going to be the midpoint, and that is called your bottom center. I'm going to pull a line off at a 30-degree angle. And the reason why we're going at a 30-degree angle is therefore I can grade it. It's not that 30 degrees is what it always is, but we're going to go at a 30-degree angle, and I'm going to go back 12 inches. Therefore, everybody's is the same, and it's a lot easier for me to grade. I mean, you could put that vanishing point anywhere. So now all we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and we're going to connect each one of those lines back to that vanishing point. So again, this is like where I was talking about the railroad tracks. So we've got a bottom center line here. We've got a vanishing point back here, so it goes on for infinity. But we're looking at this as being a brick. Well, we know that this brick is 6 inches long. So the most common or easy thing to do over here would be to measure from this bottom corner back 6 inches and come up. Well, you don't ever measure on the object, you can only measure on the bottom center line. So when I go from draw my line here, I'm going to go from my bottom center, and I'm going to use my vanishing point as my snap so it doesn't move around on me a whole lot. And my brick, it goes back 6 inches, so I'm going to go 6 enter. And then what I'm going to do is I got to work it around. So I'm going to go straight across. Straight up to where it intersects here. Straight over. It just happens to be, since it was 6, I used 12. So this was my bottom center line. Probably could make it red so it's a little bit easier to see. I measured back that far. So we measured back 6 inches, and then I worked it around. I went to where it intersected, and then we went up. So now I can get to my trim button over here and get my I can get rid of everything else. And then obviously get rid of my red bottom center line as well. So that is what the brick would look like in a one-point perspective drawing. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to make one out of this, out of the base pad. Actually, it's called the lap joint, sorry. So this is what it's going to look like eventually. So I'm going to start off by drawing what the front view would look like. The front view is two rectangles at 0.62 tall, 1.25 tall by 2.5 wide. So I'm going to come over here, hit the line button, and I'm going to go 2.5 wide, 0.62 tall, 2.5 wide. There's one, and then I actually then have another 0.62 box right here. So I got basically this face right there, and then I'm going to put this face right there on there next. So I'm just, instead of drawing, I'm going to copy. I'm going to go copy that box from the bottom to the top. So that is what you would see from the front view of our piece, which is this bottom box right here if you look up here in the answer. So I'm going to draw back my bottom center line. I'm going to go from my bottom center and then get to my vanishing point. We're going to use the 30-degree angle again. Shift comma. 30 enter, and then I'm going to go back at 12. And again, those numbers are just the numbers that I'm giving you. It is not necessarily what you always would do if you were to do a 1-point perspective drawing, but it's what I'm telling you to do. So we've got this now. Now what we got to look at here, let's go ahead and get our back edge of the part. Well, we know that our part is 5.5 long. So I got to measure back on my bottom. Actually, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. We got to measure back on my bottom center line 5.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this bottom center line. Make sure my white line's on top of the red line. I'm going to go back 5.5. And then I'm just going to go straight across, and I'm just going to leave that line there for a minute because I kind of forgot to put my vanishing point lines in. So we want to go from that corner back to the vanishing point. To there. To there. I got one more in there. Actually, I got two more. To there, and then back to that corner. So I got all my vanishing point lines in there now, going back to my vanishing point, I should say. So now we took this line here and we measured back 5.5. So now what we're going to do, that is the overall width of the part. So I can go from here all the way up to where it would intersect this part, all the way to the left, and that gives me my back edge of my part. Alright, my back edge. So in essence, if I wanted to trim right now, I could go trim. I'm going to trim to these two lines, and then I can get rid of the white ones because this is my back of my part. So I just created this section right here. Now I need to get this little base pad part. It says that I'm back 2.5. So I'm going to draw my line from my bottom center line back at 2.5. And then again I will run it around. So I'm going to go straight across to here, up to where the line here intersects. So I'm looking at this corner right here. So I'm going to go to that line. I can't get it mixed up with my bottom center line. Straight up to there. I'll go ahead and go up to here again. I'll go straight across. And then actually I don't have one of my lines in there that I need to finish this one. I've got to have this line for my corner in. So I'm going to go from that corner back to my bottom center. I forgot to put that one in there before. So then I would connect from here to there, and it should be straight, you would think. And it is straight. So now I've got that second piece, and I just got to trim. I'm going to trim that dude out of there. And that dude out of there. I could now get rid of this front part. And then I will trim out the parts or the hidden lines that I don't see. Don't see that one. And then I will also, I'm running out of time, I got 30 seconds. Be able to put it on YouTube. All I did was I trimmed out everything, or I cut out everything at this point. And I need to put this line back, but to there. And then that would be the 1-point perspective of the base pad.